Buenos días. Está una celebración para la Dia de los Muertos, a Mexican holiday that celebrates the dead, those who have gone before us, who return those connections that have been a part of their lives and our lives while they were here before. It's also Samhain, a Celtic holiday for those who experience the relationships with those who have gone beyond in the Isle of Ireland. We are a welcoming congregation to all who come in a spirit of joy and peace with others, regardless of your religious affiliation, pagan, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Christian, and individual affiliation. Let's see. Over there on my left, on your right, is a table with a book that you can write anything that you wish to share with the community here. Please write your piece and light a candle, and Alex will read it later in the service. This is a multi-generational service, so if you're comfortable, the youngsters will stay with us for this week. Do we have any visitors today? Please stand up, and a microphone will be brought to you. Any visitors? Yeah, please.
Hi, I'm Jessa. We just moved here. I grew up in the UU Church of Greater Lansing, so thought I'd check in.
Great. Wonderful. Anybody else? Okay, do take a yellow mug for the after service so that we'll know who you are and speak to you, okay? Well, now, turn off your cell phones and let the service begin. Barbara Young will play our opening number, Ecos de Mexico, Capricio y Concierto.
Whew. I asked Barb to play this one, and man, did she deliver. Thank you for that. Whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here with us this morning. I'm Reverend Alex. I'm the senior minister here at UUCGT. I use he and him pronouns. And welcome as we join together to dance with death as we celebrate life this morning. For this celebration of El Día de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. As we settle in this morning, I invite you to hear these words from the Reverend Tanya Marquez. Every year around this time, there is a distinctive smell in the air, and the trees sway like the whisper of 1,000 voices. That's how I know they are coming. At that point, the perpetual altar in my heart begins taking place outside of me. For a few days, it dances with joy at the thought of their coming. The fragrance of cempasúchil, of marigolds, fills the air. Grandfather's sun made flower, a ray of light guiding them back, calling them home. It is a long way here. It is good to have some food and drinks ready so they may quench their thirst, so they may eat and gain strength for the way back. My family and I gather. We tell stories, we laugh, we also cry a little. We rejoice in their company. Their stories come alive in our telling, and so does the love we still feel. I have learned to listen more often to things than to beings, to listen to my heart that knows a different way of knowing. My heart knows that the dead aren't really dead. Their stories are perpetually being told by the world around us, like the trees swaying, like the whisper of 1,000 voices. It is now time in our service to light the flaming chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism and our shared faith. Misty will light our chalice now as I read these words. As we light our chalice, may we remember the light of a beloved, a friend, a loved one we are holding close on our hearts today. As we kindle this flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into mystery. Their brightness lives on in our vision, their courage lives on in our commitments, and their love continues to bless the world through us. And now we sound our singing bowl, "Come now and enter a stillness." I'm now going to invite everyone, if you're willing or able, to join in rising in body or in spirit. We're going to be singing our opening hymn, number 1034, in your teal hymnals, De Noche. You actually may not know this about me, but I am actually part Mexican-American on my mother's side, and I actually had the privilege of learning some Spanish while growing up in California. So this hymn is going to be in Spanish, but we're going to sing this together so that we can learn and pronounce all the words. Are you with me in doing this? Sí? Muy bien. So we will begin by singing this hymn once together. We're going to sing it line, phrase by phrase, so that you get the feel for the words and the melody. I will sing one line and invite you to echo that in a response, singing it the same. And then once we're ready, we're going to sing this hymn 3 times through, doing this together. I promise that after a couple times, you're really going to get the hang of this. And if you're absolutely uncomfortable in singing in Spanish for whatever reason, there are a whole bunch of other languages there, including English. And so feel free to sing along or hum along in whatever way feels the most comfortable. Challenge by choice, but I know you can do it. So this hymn is actually a Taizé piece. It's a song from the monastic community of France. And Dia de los Muertos coincides with All Saints and All Souls Day on the Christian calendar. So I thought it would be a nice piece for us to sing together. And so it's also in our hymnal. Let's go ahead and begin by singing together. And so again, I will sing one phrase and invite you to echo it, and we'll do it phrase by phrase. De noche iremos, de noche. Your turn. De noche iremos, de noche, que para encontrar la fuente, que para encontrar la fuente, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra. Together, 3 times through. De noche iremos, de noche, que para encontrar la fuente, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra. De noche iremos, de noche, que para encontrar la fuente, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra. One time, more with feeling. De noche iremos, de noche, que para encontrar la fuente, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra. Please be seated.
And now it's time for our offering. Let us remember those who are fleeing violence, seeking a new home from Central America and Mexico, and from the other troubled spots in the world, where they and their family can feel safe. The baskets coming around have two sides, one to maintain our staff, and the other for the wider community, while Barbara Young will play Intermezzo number 1.
It is our practice as a religious community to set aside time in our service to honor the joys and concerns that are in our midst, those moments that happen in our lives when we just know we must hold some things together as we are gathered. I'll be sharing a handful of those joys and concerns that have been offered up for us to hold on our hearts. If you have a joy or concern that's a bit too heavy to share with us in our service, you're invited to always reach out to myself, to a member of our congregational care team. Is somebody from congregational care here this Sunday? I don't believe they are. Oh, there we go. Jill has her hand up. She's an excellent person that you can speak with from congregational care. And you're also always invited to simply just hold it in your heart as we are gathered together, and you are embraced by the love of this community. None of us is ever meant to travel life's journey alone. And so now I will share what has been gathered for us to share in our community. Our beloved monarch butterflies aren't the only ones returning to Mexico this time of year. Our beloved Marlyn Rangel Jackson, some of you might remember her when she first came here and stood up in our service and exclaimed, "I'm looking for the Church of Love." Marlyn has headed back to Mexico, actually, to be with some family for 5 months to reconnect with her family roots and discern her next steps for life's path. Marlyn and her parents, Lucy and Nick, wanted you to know how special and meaningful they have found this community to be. They are a family of 3 and will miss their daughter immensely. Marlyn does hope to remain connected with us online and still tune in to our services. And so if you would please hold Marlyn, Lucy, and Nick in every prayer and comfort in this time of transition. We also extend our love and prayers for Nancy, Tobin, and Gretchen Frazier. as Don Fraser enters his final moments of life. So please hold the Fraser family on your hearts. A concern. Thoughts on the horrifying genocide that is happening around the world, including those in Congo and Sudan, where thousands are killed each day, hoping for peace worldwide. A joy. This fall has been so beautiful. A concern. Thoughts for a safe transition of the homeless into warm homes before winter. And now let us hold a brief moment for all the joys and concerns that remain in the silence on our hearts. It is our tradition each year to honor in a service of remembrance at this time of year the loved ones in our congregation and community who have died in the past year, who we remember and hold close. In that tradition, I invite you to a place of stillness and remembrance as we read these names of those who have died in the past year. I also invite us to breathe deeply together, taking a deep breath in and out. Another deep breath in and out. Stan Kane. Ann Chin. Bob Hicks. Mary Lee Hayes Orr. Price Watts. As we pause in this moment, we also light a candle on our altar for all those many innocent lives lost to violence and war in our world, for the 1,400 Israelis and 7,700 Palestinians who have died in the crossfire of conflict, for the 18 dead and 13 wounded out of Lewiston, Maine, for all parts in our world that are hurting and all those lives lost. And now I invite you to call to your mind a loved one that you are missing and remembering at this time of year. If it feels comfortable to close your eyes, to picture them on your mind's eye, someone whose photo very well might be up here on this altar, or someone whose memory you don't want to lose or forget. I invite you to be with that person now in this time of remembrance. I invite you now to thank this person for being with us as we celebrate this Day of the Dead. And I say, may it be so, and amen. We will now hear our song of response, a familiar one for many of you, and also from a familiar face, our very own friend, Renee Russell.
remember me. Though I have to say goodbye, remember me. Don't let it make you cry, for even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me. Though I have to travel far, remember me. When you hear a sad guitar and know that I'm with you the only way that I can be, until you're in my arms again. Remember me. Remember me. Though I have to travel far, remember me. When you hear a sad guitar and know that I'm with you the only way that I can be, until you're in my arms again. Remember me.
This is a poem called The Contemplation of Death, written by Julie Soperan in honor of Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Food, air, essence, aromas of flavors in its great care, warmth, smoke, sigh, fumes of dried fruit filled with roses, the shawl, the life, the sweet gesture, the smile in the flight of angels, and the encounter spiced to please the palate. How flavorful death tastes at home, with resignation and good food waiting for them to come to us. Quietly they come, carrying on their shoulders their wisdom and their mystery. But they already know that the clean home is where the family and the feelings and the memories are. The offering is complete. The cempasúchiles in a cross and kneeling are the fruits, the candles, the candle holders, the pictures, and the most beautiful memories. The kindest gesture, the company of the dead, of our own, everything ready, the lit copal, the scent of incense. They have returned. They are coming. They're tired. They'll spend a few days visiting, bit of sugar liquor in their sleep. Let's toast with death to life.
The first Unitarian Universalist church service that I ever attended was actually a Dia de los Muertos service, a service for Day of the Dead. This was that same service that I attended back in 3rd grade with my Grandma Torch. She's a character that you've already heard a lot about, those of you that remember. My UU grandma with her hair the color of a red onion and her writing for the San Jose Unitarian Church's gossip column of their newsletter. Not somebody you want to be on the wrong side of. She is also about to turn 84 this Saturday, and so an early happy birthday to her. And so walking through the round doors of the First Unitarian Church of San Jose, I was struck as a kid by the vibrant colors of this ofrenda, the altar that was set before us with candles and photos. And growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area, I was raised without religion. Surprise, surprise. I actually wasn't a cradle-born UU, though I'm fairly young still. We celebrated holidays in our family life, like Christmas and Easter as a family, but we never really went to church services or vigils. So going to church was all brand new territory for me. Walking through the doors that Sunday morning with Grandma, I was met with an absolutely gorgeous scene. A large altar up front, decorated in yellows, pinks, reds, and purples. Papel picado, the tissue paper. Calaveras, the decorated sugar skulls. And, of course, cempasúchil, which are the marigold petals. We sang hymns and said our words in both English and Spanish. The Time for All Ages invited us youth to actually come forward to the altar and place things to remember our family members with. I remember bringing up a photo myself of my grandfather who had died a couple of years before that, one who is actually also on our altar this morning. And after we were sung to our classes that day, we decorated these paper calaveras, these paper sugar or paper skulls, and actually got to cut them out into these masks that we got to wear all day. And so it was this beautiful celebration and experience for me, a moment where I felt deeply affirmed in parts of my own identity and heritage in our family traditions. Many don't know it looking at me, but as I mentioned before, I am actually part Mexican-American. My mom, who is half Mexican, grew up very close to the traditions of her family, cooking traditional foods and learning and speaking Spanish growing up. When it came to my younger brother and me, my mom really wanted us to stay connected to our family roots and our heritage. And so in our family, we would sometimes celebrate Dia de los Muertos by putting up a big altar in our own backyard, sprinkling marigold petals along the brick pathway. And you'll notice actually on the screen behind me, this is actually a picture of my ofrenda this time of year here in Traverse City since I moved. So anyway, I bring that ofrenda to be with us as well today. So El Dia de los Muertos is a celebration with roots that go back thousands of years before the arrival of Europeans and, of course, Columbus to Mesoamerica. It goes back to Aztec, Toltec, and Nahua peoples, the indigenous groups who considered mourning the dead, interestingly enough, to be disrespectful. For these cultures, death was a natural phase in life's journey. To see it as sad or somehow out of step with life was actually to do our departed loved ones a great disrespect. This tradition was shaped by these indigenous roots and mixed with the influences from Christianity and Catholicism. And so this Wednesday and Thursday, November's 1st and 2nd, are actually peak days for Day of the Dead that encompass two important dates on the Christian calendar, All Saints' Day and also All Souls' Day, the day after that. And it is actually believed that on El Dia de los Muertos, the gates to the afterlife, to heaven, are opened up and allow for our departed loved ones to return and be with us once again. Families in Mexico and the United States visit cemeteries and gravestones, decorating them with their loved ones' favorite foods and drinks. In order for our loved ones to find these altars, marigold petals are scattered in a path to lead that ancestor back by their bright colors and aroma. Although this tradition speaks to the realities of death, this would be incorrect to say that it is a celebration of death, or a ritual of mourning even. Instead, it's actually above all a celebration of life. It's about honoring a deep truth that the dead aren't really dead to us unless we are the ones who forget them. It invites us to not be afraid of death, to see the value and meaning in life, to reach back to the ancestors in prior generations and remember them and hold them close. Our reading this morning, The Contemplation of Death, that Misty shared with us, is a poem that encapsulates this meaning. The poet Julie Sopetran writes, "How flavorful death tastes at home with resignation, and good food waiting for them to come visit us. Quietly they come carrying on their shoulders their wisdom and the mystery. The offering is complete. Let's toast with death to life." In some ways, celebrating Day of the Dead as a family had the same emphasis as other important holidays in my family, though in reality the celebration felt quite a bit deeper. As we placed the photos of our loved ones and their favorite snacks and foods on the altar, we were reminded of them. We would tell old family stories of all sorts of relatives, some of whom my brother and I knew so little about. And Day of the Dead was a way of remembering our ancestors and celebrating how they are with us still, even in death. Yet even with this background, I still wrestle with my identity as both a white person and also someone who is Mexican American. I wrestle with this because I experience a world as a white person with a lot of privilege. My identity seldom comes up in conversations, and oftentimes people assume that I am only of European ancestry, if they even get that far. But they don't know about the other roots and threads of my family fabric as well. I even hesitate to mention parts of my identity because I fear others won't take me seriously or believe me. If I'm honest, I even approached this whole service with a lot of hesitation. I knew what it might look like at face value, a white minister leading a predominantly white UU congregation in a Dia de los Muertos service. At the same time, I see this service as an invitation to bring my whole and full self, to share these wrestlings with you, to explain the complex nature of all of these traditions that we mark when we are together. Right now, in wider Unitarian Universalism, we're wrestling with how to honor holidays and traditions like Day of the Dead, without causing harm or hurt through cultural appropriation. Has anyone heard of that term, cultural appropriation, before? I see some hands around. It's something that's becoming more and more relevant for us to be versed in, especially in approaching cultures and traditions that are not actually our own. Cultural appropriation is what happens when one culture, usually a privileged one, takes elements from another culture out of their original meanings and contexts. UUA has published resources and materials on celebrating Dia de los Muertos, but Mexican-American UUs have cautioned congregations against celebrating it unless it is shared from people who are connected to that culture. The Reverend Marisol Caballero speaks to how it feels when predominantly white UU congregations celebrate this tradition without an authentic connection to it. She writes, "When white people celebrate El Dia de los Muertos, not as the personal invited guest of Mexicans, it feels to me like someone has crashed a family funeral or a wake. In other words, it feels disrespectful and can appear inauthentic, rude, or even insensitive. Again, none of these congregations are intending to cause harm or to hurt anyone's feelings. But when a culture, tradition, or custom is taken out of context, it can feel tokenizing or superficial. Like the cultures and peoples being drawn from are, quite honestly, cultural enrichment opportunities for white people. This can be pretty harmful. And it absolutely doesn't create an inclusive or welcoming culture for people who actually come from those traditions, as well-meaning or well-intentioned as they might be. There are many other examples of cultural appropriation that we can look to beyond just celebrating Day of the Dead. For example, sports teams who use problematic and racialized names as mascots, wearing jewelry or other cultural items as fashion, items that other people hold deep meaning and significance to in their traditions, not to mention the whole host of problematic and racist Halloween costumes that people continue to wear each year. Dressing up as another culture or group of people, like dressing up as an indigenous person, or showing up wearing other racist or cultural stereotypes. While we hold this complexity, It's also deep in our values to look to other world traditions and faiths for inspiration. Our fourth principle invites us into a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And the third source of our living tradition maintains that we seek this inspiration from the world's faith traditions to enhance our own understandings for living an ethical and spiritual life. And, that's a big and, this must be done delicately. When we look to other traditions as sources, we must avoid taking rituals and celebrations out of their culture and meanings, removing them from the people who celebrate them with such deep care and intention. When this happens, we actually become accomplices and even agents to cultural appropriation. We become complicit in the oppression of others in what can be seen as making fun or sometimes making lightness out of someone's deeply beloved tradition or culture. However, there are moments when we also celebrate rituals and traditions authentically in our own tradition as well. In fact, when we do this right, when we honor the traditions that are shared by people who are also connected with them, we create something transformative, multicultural, and truly affirming. I experienced those feelings as a kid that Sunday I went to church with my grandma. I felt affirmed in my identity, feeling the authentic connection to this tradition, and getting to share that with wider community. In a way, having a service like this showed me that I belonged. It showed me that a Unitarian Universalism that could hold all of who I was, even with identities in tension with one another. It showed me that, essentially, that this was a place that could hold all of that and hold that complexity. So I really want to just appreciate the altar, the ofrenda that we have this morning. I appreciate the chance to share this tradition with you in a way that connects it to this rich heritage and history. I also hope that we pay respect to how meaningful this ritual is for the millions of people who celebrate it across our world as they prepare to welcome their loved ones back home once again. Though I also think we can take some lessons from our own theology as Unitarian Universalists. Some teachings that I'd argue are actually ours, though they might also intersect with El Día de los Muertos. A question at the heart of Día de los Muertos for me is that wider question of who am I? Who are we? In Spanish, the question, ¿Quiénes somos? Will you say that with me? ¿Quiénes somos? Excellent. I can tell you've been practicing. Who we are and who are we and how do we know or hold relationships to those who have gone before? I see an intersection with Día de los Muertos and how we Unitarian Universalists also view death in our tradition. From our opening words, the Reverend Tania Marquez offers her reflection on the ancestors, how the trees swaying sounds like the whisper of 1,000 voices. She writes, every year around this time, there is a distinctive smell in the air. That's how I know they are coming. My family and I gather, we tell stories, we laugh, we also cry a little, and we rejoice in their company. We, as Unitarian Universalists, believe that our loved ones who are dead are with us still, too. We are encouraged and reminded by their words to return to ourselves. Their care and love empower our own. We who are living, those of us who remain here on this earth, carry the departed with us. We are their hands, their voices, their eyes, and their hearts. Día de los Muertos reminds us of this reality. Those who have died aren't truly gone. They are with us. Those who have died are alive in us, and as long as we keep their memory alive, we keep them alive as well. This, then, might be why we Unitarian Universalists don't do funerals or requiem masses. Indeed, we call them celebrations of life, not celebrations of death. So our UU theology, I believe, calls us to celebrate life. This doesn't mean that we should be afraid of death. Rather, we ought to see death in light of life. In Spanish, una celebración de la vida. Whether we celebrate life with altars or marigold petals, with calaveras or monarch butterflies, we are reaching back to the ancestors and keeping their memory fresh. In doing this, we remember more of who we are. As the hymn we are about to sing next tells us, "'Tis the ancestors' breath. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the crying grass. The dead are not under the earth." We can say yes to life and honoring death, realizing that while death is sometimes scary, there is nothing ultimately to fear. They are with us still, and they are a part of us with each breath we take. In the spirit of Dia de los Muertos, may we leave this place ready to answer yes to life. May we mourn those who have died, but only mourn them for a moment. Instead, let us lean into celebrating their ongoing, living legacies. May you find time this week to remember those you love who have passed on, looking for the ways that you still see them showing up in your life, the ways that they are still with you even now, in the smile of a grandchild, in the rustle of wind and leaves, perhaps on the wings of visiting monarchs before making their long journey home. May we, as Unitarian Universalists, offer rituals from places of authenticity and deep respect. And may we, the living, create vibrant living traditions in which all of us, ancestor and descendant, find welcome, inclusion, and affirmation. May it be so, and amen. Let us pause now for a brief moment as we enter a time of stillness. We're now going to get up and sing again together. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our closing hymn today, number 1001, Breaths in Your Teal Hymnals. We have Cindy and Shelley here who will lead us in singing along together.
Listen more often to things than to me. 'Tis the
the Aztecs had many gods and goddesses representing all roles in adult life. Politics, military, food preparation, weaving, and marketing were all vital for family and corporate life. As we remember those who came before us, we remember their roles in the community. We thank them for their work and go forth to our roles in life, grateful for their teachings and love.
If you would remain standing, and if you so choose, either link and join hands, link some arms, put a hand on a shoulder, or the symbol of I do not want to be touched, which is outstretching your hands. That is totally welcome too. We're saying that, so please, if you see anybody doing this, please respect that, and please join us as we say our benediction words. In the spirit of covenant, community, and commitment, in the spirit of those who have died but are with us still, may we be made ready to serve one another and create the world we so desperately dream of. Go in peace all. Pass a little squeeze if it feels comfortable, or an air slap, and go in peace all. So before we break, just a couple of announcements. You may be seated just for a little bit. Our second starting point session is actually happening today. Before you start your side conversations, I just have a couple of announcements. Our starting point session today is happening after our service from 12 to 2 p.m. All are invited to participate no matter what your level is with UU. So please join us back in our sanctuary after you have a little bit of a break for some coffee and some treats. Another reminder to seek out Rick Walter today. Rick, are you in the sanctuary? You're right there. So Rick Walter is who you want to go talk to get tickets for the Harvest Gathering at Twin Lakes that is happening in a few Sundays on November 19th. So make sure you get signed up, and Rick is your person for that. And lastly, we are kicking off the start of our fundraiser auction this fall. You might have seen something about that in the flash this past week, about how to donate or contribute an experience. We're trying something new this year and are doing an experiences-only auction, like offering a workshop on painting, teaching a recipe like how to make carrot muffins, or offering skills with tutoring, or even being a fix-it kind of person. Those are the kinds of things that we're hoping that will really help to leaven the community experience. So if that's something that is of interest to you, save the date for our party on Saturday, December 9th that we'll hold here from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. here at UUCGT. We'll also have an online option for those of our friends who are more remote. And those of you that would like to contribute anything, we're using the Better World platform to kind of log on and put your experience in. And Brian Beamer, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand, Brian's been really great and actually brought his laptop with him today. So if you're having any questions or confusion about it, he can even help you put it on right there on the spot. So he is an excellent person to reach out to. Thank you so much for being willing to do it. I will end our great litany of announcements. Please go off and enjoy some coffee and treats, and join us back in the room for some starting point later. Go in peace and grow in love. Yeah, we'll have to allow